You're not confused. You are loud inside, and that noise is not your soul. It is your ego talking nonstop, pretending to be you, demanding attention, control, recognition, security. When the ego falls silent, the soul does not explain. It guides. You call this thinking, but it is fear repeating its own name. If right now you feel a tightness in your chest, a hurry with no direction, a need to prove yourself, to defend yourself, to explain yourself, that is not inner life. That is the ego in panic because it senses it is about to be exposed, and it should be afraid because today you are going to hear something it cannot endure. Your soul never screamed. The ego screams. The soul has always spoken softly. It has always been there, and you ignored it because it does not negotiate with your pride. In this video, you will not learn theories or empty spiritual concepts. You will quiet the ego in practice and recognize today the difference between the voice that pressures you and the presence that guides you. Throughout this content, you will notice how the inner noise loses strength, how decisions become simple, and how the voice of your soul begins to manifest with clarity, without fear, without effort, and without confusion. Listening to the voice of the soul in practice begins when you stop asking, "What should I do?" and start noticing where each impulse comes from. The ego always arrives in a rush. The soul never has urgency. When something arises in you demanding an immediate decision, a quick explanation, or an automatic reaction, that is not intuition. It is fear disguised as logic. The practice here is brutally simple. Any decision made with anxiety does not come from the soul. If there is tension, it is still the ego trying to control the outcome. Write in the comments now, without overthinking. I am not the voice that pressures me. The soul speaks when you are not trying to gain anything. Observe. Whenever you do something expecting approval, return, recognition, or advantage, the ego is in command. The soul acts without calculation. So, in practice, before any action, ask silently, what would I do if no one ever knew about this? If the answer changes, you have found the ego. If the answer remains calm and clear, you have touched the soul. Another direct practice. Notice your body before reacting. The ego lives in the head, in the narrative, in the endless inner dialogue. The soul manifests as simple sensation, expansion in the chest, relaxation in the belly, a breath that drops. When you listen to the soul, the body releases. When it is ego, the body contracts. This is not symbolic, it is physical. If you learn to trust the body more than the story the mind tells, the soul begins to have space. The soul does not respond to complex mental questions. It responds to raw honesty. Instead of, what is my purpose? Try, what here inside is false right now? This question does not seek a beautiful answer. It cuts. And when something false is seen, an inflated desire, a need to prove worth, an escape, the silence that remains is the voice of the soul. It appears when the false falls away, not when something new is created. A real daily practice. Choose small moments not to explain yourself inside. The ego explains everything, justifies everything, defends everything. The soul does not explain itself. So when someone criticizes you, ignores you, or misinterprets you, observe the impulse to justify yourself internally. Do nothing. Stay. That discomfort is the ego begging for attention. If you do not give in, something deeper takes the space. That something is the soul strengthening. Listening to the soul requires crossing the void. The ego always offers content, thoughts, memories, plans. The soul offers silence. And you were trained to flee from silence. So practice staying a few minutes without consuming anything, without thinking anything useful, without improving anything, just being. At first, only the ego appears screaming. If you endure without following it, a simple, stable presence emerges without drama. This presence does not speak in long sentences, it guides through clarity. The soul speaks through what remains after the emotion passes. The ego decides at the emotional peak. The soul reveals itself after the wave subsides. So in practice, never trust decisions made at the height of anger, fear, or euphoria. Wait for the body to calm. What still makes sense after that does not come from reactive ego. It comes from the deepest layer in you. Another essential practice, observe your desires. The ego desires to fill a hole. The soul desires to express something already whole. Desire with anxiety is ego. Desire with serenity is soul. Ask, if this does not happen, do I collapse? If the answer is yes, it is ego. The soul does not threaten, it invites. Listening to the soul also requires abandoning spiritual identity. The ego loves to call itself conscious, awakened, profound. The soul does not describe itself. Whenever you think, I am like this, I already understood this. This is not for me. The ego is trying to solidify. The practice here is simple and humbling. Be willing not to know. Where there is I don't know, the soul breathes. The soul manifests when you act with truth, even while losing something. If you only act when you gain, it is ego. When you do what is right, even at the cost of comfort, image, or control, something deeper is guiding. This is not heroism. It is alignment. The soul prefers a clean loss to a dirty gain, a concrete day-to-day practice. Reduce excess stimulation. The ego needs constant noise to survive. The soul needs space. Less screen time, less comparison, less other people's opinions pouring in all the time. This is not isolation. It is inner hygiene. Where there is excess information, there is no listening. The soul also speaks through the discomfort you avoid. What you keep postponing, what you distract yourself from feeling, usually holds an essential truth. The ego flees discomfort. The soul uses discomfort as a portal. When something bothers you, stay. Ask, what here wants to be seen? Do not correct. Observe. Over time, you notice something decisive. The soul does not give orders. It aligns. When you listen to it, your actions become simple. Less inner conflict, less mental debate. You do what needs to be done without needing to convince yourself. This is the soul's signature. Effortless simplicity. And perhaps the hardest point to accept. Listening to the soul does not make you special. It makes you quiet. Less opinion. Less need to convince. Less urgency to be heard. The ego hates this because it loses the stage. The soul loves it because it finds space. If now you feel a strange silence, almost uncomfortable, do not fill it. This interval is precious. It is in this space that something true begins to move without words. And the question that remains open, pulsing without immediate answer is, are you willing to lose the noise that defines you in order to discover the silence that sustains you? Listening to the voice of the soul requires a practical break with the habit of constantly consulting yourself. The ego keeps asking for internal opinion. Maybe? What if? What will they think? The soul does not consult. It recognizes. In practice, when you notice this inner dialogue spinning in circles, do not try to solve it. Cut. Return to bodily sensation now, feet on the ground, breath dropping. Where the body is present, the soul finds passage. The soul also speaks when you stop projecting into the future. The ego lives 2 steps ahead, trying to guarantee that nothing goes wrong. The soul operates only in the now. So whenever you catch yourself rehearsing conversations, outcomes, or scenarios, know this: it is not intuition. The practice is simple and uncomfortable. Bring everything back to this minute. What is true now? Without story, without projection. This simple truth is the language of the soul. Another concrete practice. Notice what drains you and what nourishes you. The ego excites and exhausts. The soul energizes in silence. After certain conversations, tasks, or environments, you feel a heavy fatigue even without physical effort. That is ego being fed. At other times, even tired, there is calm clarity. That is the soul in action. Stop ignoring this signal. It is direct and reliable. The soul expresses itself when you say fewer yeses and more nos. The ego says yes to be accepted, to maintain image, to avoid conflict. The soul says no without aggression, without guilt, without long explanations. In practice, when a yes comes with heaviness, inner justification, or resentment, it is not true. Learning to listen to the soul is learning to respect this inner boundary before it turns into depletion. There is also a silent practice, listening to what asks for nothing. The ego always wants something: attention, validation, control. The soul asks for nothing. It offers presence. So when an impulse arises that does not demand urgency, does not come with anxiety, does not need to be defended but simply presents itself clearly, that is a whisper of the soul. It does not insist. If you do not listen, it withdraws. That is why it requires sensitivity. Listening to the soul involves accepting not being understood. The ego wants to be understood all the time. The soul does not care. When you begin to act in alignment, some people will not understand and something in you will still be at peace. That peace does not come from approval, it comes from inner coherence. This is a practical and unmistakable sign of true listening. Another essential key: the soul speaks after you stop defining yourself. Whenever you say, "I am like this," you close a door. The soul is movement, so practice observing yourself without labels. Not, "I am calm," "I am anxious," "I am spiritual." Just observe what is happening now. Where there is no fixed identity, the soul flows. The soul also manifests when you accept losing control. The ego wants to guarantee results. The soul acts with lucid surrender. In practice, do what is within your reach with total presence and release the rest. If you act well and still remain attached to the outcome, the ego has taken over again. When you act and let go, something deeper holds you. And here is a decisive point. Listening to the soul does not keep you comfortable all the time. It is not designed to please the ego. Often it leads you to simple choices that are unsettling to the image you have built. If something in you recognizes the truth of a path even without emotional enthusiasm, even without inner applause, that is maturity of the soul, not egoic excitement. Now notice the silence that opens when you do not try to conclude anything. Do not close it. Do not turn it into a concept. Stay with the sensation. Because the question that remains open and must remain open is, do you want to hear the soul only when it confirms what you already want, or are you willing to follow it when it dismantles who you think you are? The ego wants you to believe it is necessary for survival. It says that without it, you disappear. A lie. In Sufism, this is called the nafs, the false identity that feeds on comparison, desire, and fear. The nafs is not you. It is a habit, an ancient addiction to placing yourself at the center of everything. Rumi taught that the greatest veil between you and the real is not the world. It is this inner voice that comments on everything, judges everything, demands everything. The ego turns even spirituality into a stage. It wants to improve, evolve, awaken, but always to be seen. And while you try to become someone, the soul waits for you to stop pretending. Observe now, when you fall silent for a few seconds, the ego panics. It creates stories, memories, worries, plans. It cannot tolerate the void because in the void it does not exist. And here is the cruel truth: you confuse intensity with truth. The loudest voice seems important, but in Sufism what is real does not compete. The soul does not argue, it does not pressure, it does not beg. It simply is. And that is why you do not hear it, because you are addicted to tension. The soul continues to reveal itself when you stop trying to extract certainty from every moment. The ego demands guarantees. It wants to know where this leads, what it means, how it will end. The soul moves without a map. It does not promise outcomes, it offers alignment step by step. When you can stay with not knowing what comes next without collapsing into anxiety, you are already listening. That quiet tolerance of uncertainty is not weakness. It is intimacy with reality as it is. You will notice that as the soul takes the lead, your relationship with time changes. Urgency dissolves, not because nothing matters, but because you are no longer chasing validation through speed. The ego rushes to arrive. The soul arrives by staying. What once felt late now feels precise. What once felt delayed now feels protected. This shift is subtle but unmistakable. You stop forcing life to move faster than your truth. Another sign of soul-guided living is the reduction of inner commentary. You still think, but the thoughts no longer dominate. They become tools, not tyrants. The constant narration, judging, rehearsing, correcting, loses its grip. In its place, there is a directness to experience. You see what is happening without needing to frame it as success or failure. This simplicity is not emptiness. It is clarity without noise. The soul also teaches you how to rest without guilt. The ego rests only when it feels it has earned it. The soul rests because rest is part of truth. When you begin to pause without explaining yourself, without justifying productivity, something repairs itself quietly inside. Rest becomes listening. Stillness becomes nourishment. You are no longer recovering from life, you are participating in it with less friction. As you listen more deeply, you may notice relationships changing. Some connections soften, others fall away. This is not a punishment or a reward, it is coherence. Where the ego once performed, the soul now relates. Conversations become fewer but more honest. You are less available for drama and more available for presence. This does not make you distant, it makes you real. Those who can meet you there will recognize it immediately. The soul does not eliminate pain, but it changes how pain is held. Instead of resisting it or dramatizing it, you allow it to pass through with dignity. Pain becomes information rather than identity. The ego asks, "Why is this happening to me?" The soul asks nothing. It listens, adjusts, and moves with what is true. In this way, suffering loses its secondary layer, the story that keeps it alive. Over time, you may realize that the deepest guidance often comes without words. A quiet yes in the body, a clear no without explanation, a movement toward what is simple, honest, and necessary. The soul rarely argues its case. It does not persuade. It aligns you until the choice becomes obvious, not because it is easy, but because it is clean. Rumi pointed to something simple and devastating. As long as you identify with the inner noise, you will remain far from yourself. There is no need to destroy the ego. That is fantasy. The ego dies when it is not fed. It lives on your reaction. Every time you rush to justify who you are, prove your worth, defend your image, the ego grows. Every time you feel and do not react, observe and do not comment, remain and do not flee, something changes. The soul begins to be heard because the ego loses the stage. Do this now, today, not tomorrow. Sit for 2 minutes. Do not try to meditate. Do not try to improve anything. Simply notice the voice that speaks. Do not fight it. Do not follow it. Do not answer it. See how it repeats, how predictable it is, how it seems important, but always says the same things. This naked observation is the beginning of true silence. In Sufism, this is the beginning of fana, the weakening of the false self. It is not mystical. It is direct. The ego dissolves when it finds neither resistance nor applause. And here comes the final blow the ego hates. The soul does not want to make you special, it wants to make you real. The ego wants to be someone, the soul wants to be no one, because when there is no character, there is presence. When there is no mask, there is peace. When there is no effort to be, there is listening, and this listening does not bring ready-made answers, it brings alignment. You begin to act without inner noise, decide without guilt, be silent without fear, love without calculation. This is listening to the soul. If this makes you uncomfortable, it means it hit the mark. If something in you wants to run now, it is the ego trying to survive. Do not follow. Stay, observe. Something deeper is opening when you stop explaining yourself inside. And the question that remains pulsing without an easy answer is, if the ego falls silent for a few moments, who are you that remains there? Aware, whole, breathing. If something in you feels restless, exposed, or silent now, do not try to resolve it. This discomfort is the ego losing space. The soul does not ask for applause, does not make loud promises. It asks for continuous presence. If you want to sustain this silence in daily life, you need practice, repetition, and the right environment. Become a member of the channel to deepen this path with content that does not comfort the ego and does not dilute the truth. And if this video moved through you, share it with someone who needs to stop listening to the inner noise and start listening to what is real. Write in the comments, I choose true silence. This is not engagement, it is commitment.